Now available in paperback and Kindle, Stop Simping in Cyberspace. Learn how to avoid predatory females like Instagram models and e-girls in their virtual con games with Stop Simping in Cyberspace. Get your copy of Stop Simping in Cyberspace in paperback and Kindle today. A Long Island teenage boy is in police custody after allegedly taking the life of his grandmother and attempting to take the life of his mother in a dispute over his computer.
A 15-year-old boy is charged with murder on Long Island, accused of stabbing to death his own grandmother and attempting to kill his own mother. Carolyn Gussoff was in court when prosecutors revealed the alleged motive.
How could you possibly hurt your grandmother and your mother like that? Obviously, I'm assuming he just wasn't in the right state, mentally. I can't even imagine what that family's going through right now.
A family of 3 living in this Town Line Road home in Selden, where police descended Monday night after 36-year-old Vanessa Chendemi ran out screaming, flagging down a car for help. Her teenage son, she told police, had attacked her and her mother, 56-year-old Conchetta Chendemi, with kitchen knives.
He stabbed his grandmother to death and stabbed his mother. She's at a local hospital and she's expected to survive.
Police found the 15-year-old blocks away. On Tuesday, Indigo Angulo wore a white jumpsuit and hung his head before a judge as prosecutors detailed the alleged motive. His mother was concerned over his computer use and missing school. He was acting out as of late, barricading himself in his room. Monday night, she threatened to take his computer away. The grandmother chimed in, "Just take it," sparking the violent attack. The mother had to play dead as the teen continued stabbing the grandmother to death.
Anything you could share about Indigo?
The teen's aunt was tearful in court as prosecutors detailed how her mother was murdered.
There's a 15-year-old child here, okay? And he is presumed innocent. We have a presumption of innocence in America.
The teen is charged with murder and attempted murder. Police say his distraught mother is recovering from severe wounds to her face and neck. In Central Islip, Long Island, Carolyn Gussoff, CBS News, New York.
Now, in this alleged incident that took place in a home on Town Line Road in Selden, Suffolk County, 36-year-old Vanessa Chendemi was concerned about her 15-year-old son, Indigo Angulo's alleged use of the computer and him using the computer so much and being on the internet so much that he was missing school and was acting out as of late, barricading himself in his room. And as they were concerned about their son's possible antisocial behavior, this is where Vanessa Chendemi just looked to confront her 15-year-old son, Indigo Angulo, and looked to confront him regarding his excessive use of the computer and the internet and him acting out and barricading himself in the room, participating in this possible antisocial behavior. And this is where her mother, 56-year-old Conchetta Chendemi, told her to take the computer away from Indigo Angulo, and this is what led to Indigo Angulo exploding in a rage where he attacked his mother and grandmother with kitchen knives. And as a result of this entire incident, 56-year-old Conchetta Chendemi wound up losing her life, and Vanessa Chendemi was severely injured allegedly by Indigo Angulo, who fled the scene and left the home, but was eventually taken into police custody after the incident was reported on 911. Now, the Suffolk County Police see the alleged behavior of Indigo Angulo as an isolated incident, but when I take a critical examination of the alleged behavior of 15-year-old Indigo Angulo, it definitely fits the pattern and profile of cyber simps that I talk about in my book Stop Simping in Cyberspace, and the behavior of beta males that I talk about in my book The Man Crisis. And it's definitely looking to me like Indigo Angulo was definitely a boy on the road to becoming a man in crisis due to the dysfunctional way he was raised with technology. Now, when it comes down to a lot of these modern parents who've basically had kids in this internet age, what they have done, which was a major mistake, is go out here and give their children things like smartphones and other technology and give them this technology as a pacifier. And what they don't know is by giving these children these types of devices and computers at an early age, basically is putting those children on the road to becoming children of the corn, because those children grow up with no real bond with their parents as related to connecting with real people, and instead what they start to do is they start to bond with the devices and their connection to the internet. And as they bond and connect with these devices and the connection to the internet, they don't learn how to connect with real people the way God wants people to connect with each other as part of his order, because what God wants people to do is connect with each other, and that type of connection starts with a mother bonding with her son or her daughter at an early age. However, because of 60 years of feminism, which we were told children didn't need to be in the presence of their mothers and in the home during their early age, we told them we could have daycare providers provide that type of care. Unfortunately, over the last 25 years, we've gone from people being in daycare where it was just people connecting with them, and again, not really bonding with their mothers. We've gone to a bond with with these computer devices and their connection to the internet, and that's led to these children growing up becoming extremely disconnected from real people. And as they've grown up becoming extremely disconnected from real people, what's happened is these children have formed a bond with these devices because they give them a connection to the internet, which basically stimulates their brains and gives them hits of dopamine from every hit and click. And what's happened here is that instead of these children being a part of God's natural order and serving God on the road to learning about God through the gospel, what's happened is these children are becoming sharing a bond with this internet, and this internet mammon basically is turning into a false god that has them basically participating in idolatry. And as they're participating in this techno idolatry, they are more bonded with these devices than they are their parents. And this was part of a master plan that the wealthy had back in the days of the 1950s, when they basically wanted to break up the American family. When they wanted to break up the American family to make more profits, they had hoped that the mother would go out here and work, and they would put the kid in front of the television, and this would program them to become consumers. However, as we entered the internet age, the mothers, like this woman, Vanessa Chandemi, won't go out here and they don't put their kids in front of television to be programmed. No, they put them in front of the internet. And as these kids are put in front of the internet, they wind up getting programmed as related to the internet, to be addicted to getting these hits of dopamine from going to these websites or going to go play these video games. And as they wind up bonded to this internet, they form a deeper connection with the internet than they do with their parents. And this is where they don't learn how to respect their parents or see a regard for their authority or even a regard for their lives, because the one thing that they want is that connection to that internet. That connection to that internet basically is so strong that they basically, it's almost like what I talk about as related to comic books, where the Venom character is bonded to the symbiote. It's almost a symbiotic relationship. And instead of them looking to go out here and learn how to depend on God, they become codependent on the internet, and codependent on the internet to the point where they're so addicted to the internet, that they basically, when they get up in the morning, it's the first thing that they go to and the last thing that they go to when they go to sleep at night. Because oftentimes when parents use the internet to pacify their children, they have no understanding of boundaries as related to its use. They have no understanding as related to boundaries as related to its use, because the parents use it to pacify them. And as they are addicted to these screens and grow up bonded to these screens, what happens is that these children, as they enter adolescence, because there's no father there in their lives, because when I look at this family, reports say this was a family of 3, and it was basically looking like it was a single mother, a single grandmother, and no father in the home, and the boy having a different last name than her mother basically tells me that this was either a single parent or a divorced parent raising this teenage boy, and this boy being raised by a single mother and a grandmother, and basically on the internet is a recipe for a boy on the road to being a man in crisis. It's a recipe for a boy being on the road to being a man in crisis, because what's happening to that boy, because he doesn't have an actual man in his life to set order and structure early on in his life by doing things like teaching him, 1, male life skills and male survival skills, 2, establishing boundaries and structure as related to his use of this technology, and 3, a man to set order and a model of manhood for him, is that this boy, because he doesn't know how to be a man, goes out here and again, as he's entering into adolescence, starts to enter a place that I call the secret world. And as he enters this secret world, a place where he feels safe about expressing his natural masculinity and in some cases his natural sexuality, this is where he again becomes even more detached from the world. And as he becomes even more detached from the world, he goes to escape into cyberspace. And as he goes to escape into cyberspace, this is where a 15-year-old boy like Indigo Agulo can start again participating in antisocial behaviors. Now, a natural part of adolescence is to test boundaries, but a father's job is to reset and establish those boundaries. But sadly, since there was no father in that home, this is where this 15-year-old boy started acting out as of late, as the mother stated, and again barricading himself in his room. And the mother basically possibly was overwhelmed, like the late David Carroll said about what happens with boys who are raised by single mothers. They become overwhelmed because this boy has grown up to become taller, has a deeper voice, and is a lot more aggressive. And that basically exacerbated this entire situation regarding this whole incident. It basically exacerbated this situation because what happened in the case of this 15-year-old Indigo Agulo was he was acting out, again, testing the boundaries, and basically was looking to see what he could get away with, and again barricading himself in his room as he escaped to this secret world of the internet, a world where he basically felt his only place where he felt security as related to his masculinity. And the decision by the mother to go out here and take away that computer, that threat basically triggered anger in this boy, and triggered anger in this boy to the point where he wound up exploding in a rage because he basically at this point felt like the only thing that he felt attached to was being taken away from him. And he felt that, again, as he was feeling, he acted impulsively and looked to attack his mother and grandmother because he didn't see his mother and grandmother as authority figures. No, he saw them as people looking to take away his connection to the world, because his world was not the real world in front of us. His world was cyberspace, and that's what's happened to this entire generation of kids who have grown up, again, born with the internet. These kids basically feel like their world is online and not in the real world. And when real world authority figures challenge their connection to the internet, this is where these individuals start to get violent, and start to get violent to the point where they don't see their mother and people like their grandmother and people, again, who you're supposed to love as people. No, they see those people as objects, and they look to attack those people. They look to attack those people and don't have regard for their lives, and they don't really even think about the consequences of their actions, because their world is in the internet. The persona they create on the internet is what they believe to be the real them. And if you take them away from the internet, you take them away from being themselves. That's what's the whole scary part that many parents weren't thinking about in the early 2000s when they were going out here having kids and putting them in front of this technology. Many of these people didn't see how these children were forming a symbiotic bond with these computers, a symbiotic bond that was way back done with Generation X, with television, where we basically were connected to television and were again programmed with ideas with television. However, because we had parents that were very strict, sometimes we didn't get to watch as much television, Moreover, television was heavily regulated by the federal government. However, when it comes to the internet, nothing is regulated, and sadly, many of these kids are forming these disturbing bonds with these computers and technology. And as they form these disturbing bonds with computers and technology, this is what's leading to these kids, again, going and participating in antisocial behavior. Again, it's antisocial when a child is, again, so addicted to the internet that they're missing days of school. I don't care if it's about them surfing the net or them going out here and playing video games. When you have a child who doesn't understand that there's a time and a place for the internet, you have a child who's participating in antisocial behavior. When you have a child who is basically so bonded to these computers and these cell phones that if the cell phone falls, that they basically feel like they've lost their life, that's, again, a child who's, again, too connected to these devices. I mean, these devices come and go. The internet, time on the internet comes and goes. And again, you should be able to function without the internet for extended periods of time. You should be able to function without the internet for long periods of time. I mean, if you have to go to work, you have to function without the internet in certain jobs. I mean, certain jobs like working in a warehouse or working in receiving, you have to function without computers. And as you're unpacking boxes or shipping boxes, again, part of the business, and you should be able to function without that computer. But what's happening to a lot of kids is, again, because they're raised connected to these computers, they can't connect with the real world. And that's a very dangerous thing when children can't connect with the real world, because that means they don't see human beings as human beings. And if they can't see human beings as human beings, this can lead to them believing it's okay to, again, attack people who are close to them, like their mothers and grandmothers. Again, this is the type of child that we are raising, again, further exacerbating the man crisis in this country and woman crisis in this country, further exacerbating it because we have people who basically see these devices like a god because it's the way they connect with the world. It's the world that they're living in, and a lot of people are not taking this very seriously as a further escalation of the man crisis and woman crisis in this country, because there's another incident involving 3 girls who attacked their mother over these computers, and that I want to talk about if I can find the report. But the whole thing is that this is a whole scary situation many parents are not paying attention to, and not paying attention to about the way they raise their boys to become men. No, what happened sadly in the case of this single mother is she raised her boys to become a boy on the road to being a man in crisis, believing that technology would help this boy as related to things, but this led to the boy becoming more and more disconnected, more and more detached from people. And now that he's basically become detached from people, and now he's basically, again, lost someone who's real close to him, like his grandmother, his mother, and now is going to be in a place where he was on the internet to going through severe withdrawal, because what I know is going to happen to this boy, because he was possibly addicted to the internet, is that once he's taken into custody, once this boy is taken into custody, he's going to go through withdrawal similar to a drug addict, because he was basically addicted to the internet, and he's going to go through this withdrawal, and it's going to be very painful. And as he goes through this withdrawal, he's basically, again, going to go through, again, some of the worst pain, as he enters into the juvenile justice system and goes from being on computers, because you're not going to have any computers in that facility that are connected to the internet. And what's going to happen to this young male is he's going to go into the juvenile justice system with great regret as related to his actions of taking the life of his grandmother over something as trivial as the internet, and again losing losing important intangibles of his, not only losing his grandmother, but again hurting his mother, and again losing intangibles of his manhood, because he wasn't taught male life skills or male survival skills, wasn't taught, sometimes you just have to let something go in order to gain something later on. And sometimes you have to let things go as related to life because on this internet. Because what I also believe would happen to him is he was so addicted to the internet that he was basically, again, staying in his room, talking to these people online, and again, so bonded to these people online, not understanding that these people are not real. It's all personas. But he basically, again, after he goes through this withdrawal, on the internet, this is where his reality is going to set in, that he, again, took the life of people that he loved, and took the life of people that he loved, and now will not be connected to anybody anywhere. No, he'll be in that juvenile justice system under no longer the authority of his single mom and his grandmom, but under the authority of actual men in the male authority figures. And this dude is going to fall completely apart as he's under the authority of the COs and the men in the criminal justice system, as he falls under the authority of those men and has to deal with male authority for the first time. This is where this boy is going to fall completely apart. And as he falls completely apart, sadly, he's on his own for the first time under the authority of the COs, and will also have to deal with the social pecking order of Bubba, Tiny, Roscoe, Big Dave, Melvin, and Mr. Sprinkles, and have to deal with that social pecking order, and basically will possibly lose a lot of his dignity during beatdowns or other things as related to him possibly having to deal with exchanges for commissary. And I won't get into the commissary list because this is a minor, but the whole thing is that when it comes down to kids like this, what happens is that they wind up, again, addicted to this technology, not understanding the world, the real world around them, and the real world consequences around them. And what happens here is what happens to these boys or these girls who get addicted to this technology, is that they wind up on a road to becoming children of the corn, growing up like stalks without structure, and those growing up without that structure leads to them, again, growing up wild. And as they grow up wild, connected to this internet, they don't understand the consequences of the real world, and that not understanding the consequences of the real world puts them on the road to becoming children in crisis. And what happens to them is what could be preventable, because all it takes for parents to be able to deal with this whole situation is to take don't put these devices and these computers in front of your children at the ages from 0 to about, I would say, about 10, 11 years, even 12 years old. Don't put your kids in front of these devices. Let your kids grow up connected to you. Let your kids grow up and get closer to you. Let your kids bond with you and learn about God. Let them learn about God's order. Let them learn about the gospel. Let that be their foundation. No, don't let them go on this road of idolatry with this computer, because if they go on this road of idolatry with this computer, this is going to put your children on a road to being connected to that computer instead of connected to you. And if you do that, what's going to happen is your children aren't going to grow up to become healthy men and women. No, they're going to grow up to become children of the corn, who grow up to become men and women in crisis. Now, if you want to learn about the dangers of the internet and what can do harm to your kids with this World Wide Web, you can pick up my book, Stop Simping in Cyberspace, on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find Stop Simping in Cyberspace at other online booksellers like Draft the Digital, Google Play, Barnes & Noble, and big box retailers like Walmart and Target. And if you want to learn how to identify the antisocial behaviors of a beta male, and hopefully try to save your son from becoming on the road to becoming a man in crisis, you can pick up my book, The Man Crisis, on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find The Man Crisis at other online booksellers like Draft the Digital, Google Play, Barnes & Noble, and big box retailers like Walmart and Target. And if you want to see me make more videos hoping to help out young children as related to this whole situation, as related to this man crisis, so that they can grow up to become healthy men and women, you can continue to support the channel by dropping a donation to the Patreon, the PayPal, or the Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and Kindle Unlimited, The Man Crisis. Learn why so many men are struggling to find their way in an increasingly gynocentric world in The Man Crisis. Get your copy of The Man Crisis in paperback and Kindle Unlimited today. Support Black-owned and Black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.